This is what you do to get color in your cheeks. You look dead. Is that better? I'm just gonna go with it. Hello everyone, so my name is Elizabeth and today I'm going to be doing a non-spoilery review on this is one of the books, but it's the Poppy War, and then the second book, which is the Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. And I have so much to say, so we're just going to go into the books. Right off the bat, I just want to let you guys know that these books are really dark. They're really bleak, really filled with violence. So there's a lot of trigger warnings, which I am going to be reading to you off this website that I found on Google. Trigger warnings and content warnings for war themes, drug abuse, substance addiction, self-harm, racism, misogyny, genocide, bullying, abandonment, abuse, animal death, animal cruelty, brutal torture, brutal killing, brutal rape, mutilation, very graphic depictions of how children and adults died, experimentation on people against their will. Again, this is a very dark book that carries some very dark themes. Please use caution. So it is a really dark book. I had trouble reading it. I didn't want to read this book at the beginning. I heard a lot of like raving reviews about it, but I was scared to read it because of the whole, like, I had heard a trigger warning or like for rape, and I try to stay away from that. But again, like, the reviews were like amazing, that there's a really good story. It's also like a story based on like historical China, like military like events that went down in like during World War II. And so I decided to pick it up, and mostly I also decided to pick it up because I saw a review by Isabella from Throne of Pages, and she talked about how there was Zutara vibes. And if y'all don't know, then y'all should know that I love Avatar: The Last Airbender, and Zutara and Zuko are like air to me. I love them so much. I love like their dynamic and how they're polar opposites, but like they like it's just really good. And just to hear that this had something along those lines, I was really intrigued. And just like it being war and a fantasy, it's just like really intriguing. I was just really scared about like the dark, hard topics that the book was going to cover. But do I regret reading it? No. I loved the book. When I first finished it, that wasn't what I initially thought. It took me a while. I have to process what I had read and how I felt and why I felt the way I felt, because I felt really frustrated with the characters and the events that happened at the end. I was mad, and I initially wanted to give the book 3.5 or 4 stars because I was just so mad at the events that happened. But now, after thinking a lot about the book, because I just can't get it out of my head, I think that my reaction was a reaction not necessarily to the characters and to the events, but like kind of like how bleak the world is, like, because this is based on like true things, true events that happened in China, or at least the book is inspired by those events. And just to see all of that go down, I was angry at the fact that those events had to take place at all. Like, angry with like kind of like the human race, angry with the world, angry, like I was just angry, like, why is the world so shit? And yeah, I kind of took it all off on like also on the main character, who I love, but some of her actions, I was just so mad. But the thing about it is like the way she wrote these characters, they're so real. Like, if I had gone through some of the things that these characters had gone through, could I have made it to the end? And second, like, would I have been the same like them? Would I have acted the same? Possibly. And so I bumped up my rating to, I think on Goodreads I have it at 5 stars, but I think it's more 4.5 to 5. I loved it. So this book is also broken up into 3 parts, and I loved the first part. It was glorious. It was amazing. I loved it so much. Honestly, if I could just have like a whole book on the first part of the book, I loved it, because it's basically what this book is about this girl. Her name is Rin, and she lives in this country, or this empire, that's broken into 12 provinces, and she's in one of the southern provinces. They're also kind of like the poorer provinces, and she is an orphan, so she was adopted, and she's going to be married off to this rich merchant, and she doesn't want that. She's not going to have that, and so she starts studying for this test, so she can go into like these military schools. And I love so much. I loved reading about how she studied, what were the subjects they were studying, because I love learning. So I'm a geek for all those things. So watching her study and watching her, like, her process, like, oh, like, some of the things, the way she talked about some of the subjects, I completely, like, I was like, we're right here, we're right here. And I just loved her so much. I loved how hard she worked, her work ethic, and just like I was rooting for her so much. And then like the second and third part, they were really hard. Those are like the darker tone parts of the book, especially the third part. And that's when I started to get a little frustrated and just like, like why does the world have to be like this? But I am really appreciative that R.F. Kuang did not shy away from any of these topics. I think they should be heard and should be known about, because these are big things that happen to human innocent people, and it was just amazing. I loved it a lot. Of course there's characters that I loved and I hate, but overall I think it was a really great start to a series. And this is her debut book, and she was writing this book when she was in college. She was like a sophomore or a junior, and she's like 23 now, and I just, oh my god, she's like everything I want to be. She's like a classics Chinese major, I think that's what she was studying in college, and it's just like, I love her so much. And I've watched some of her interviews, and she does say like the main character is inspired by Azula from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I thought that was really cool. And yeah, there's also in this world there's also shamanism, which it kind of like the way she takes on this topic is there's certain people in this world who can commune with the gods, and they get high to do it. And I thought that was really interesting. It just like the magic system, everything was like really interesting. Like the history, I was so captivated by the history of the empire and some of the quotes, and just it's great. Overall I enjoyed it a lot. I think her writing is really well paced. Some people had trouble with the pacing, I didn't. I thought it, like, we got to learn about everything that we had to learn, and it was really clear to me. I had no trouble following along. I thought the world in this book, we just talk about kind of like the empire that she lives in, like where the girl lives in, and we kind of like go into its history, but we don't really look at the outside neighboring nations, even though they are mentioned. If you feel like you can pick this up, I would highly recommend it. I think it's a great book. I think Rin is such a strong, fiery, hardworking character, and I love that about her. So that's kind of all I want to say about the Poppy War. Yeah. Immediately after finishing this book up, I picked up the second book. I ordered it even before I had finished this one, to if that says anything at all, which is the Dragon Republic, which I will be talking, and you don't have to leave to hear me talk about this one, because I'm not going to give any spoilers for like the first book or the second book. Again, this one is a straight 5 out of 5 stars to me. To some people, they really didn't like it just because it's a lot of like political intrigue, there's a lot of politics and a lot of strategizing because of this war, but I loved it a lot. I love that kind of stuff. And yeah, I just, in this one, Rin, I love Rin, and I didn't love her until this one. I think in the first one I loved her in the first part of the first one, and then like in the other parts I was just having like my person and her person were just clashing. But this one I loved it so much. We got to be in her head more. I really felt for her, like the things she was going through. I could sympathize with her a lot more, and I really love the characters and the relationship she builds with the characters. In the first book we get introduced to like a lot of characters that I really enjoyed, but it was just mainly an introduction. We didn't really get to delve into like their past, their history, who they are, and how kind of they relate to Rin relationship wise. And this one we did, and I loved it. She is such a queen, and I'm rooting for her so much, just because she's just gone through a lot, like a lot, and a lot of the topics she is going through are like kind of self-doubt. Is she good enough to lead? Is she good enough to take on this task? Shouldn't there be someone else? Kind of like wanting this need to like lean on someone else, just because it's sometimes life just gets too hard. And I could relate to her a lot. It was just amazing. With that said, we do get to see more of the world, so we get to learn about the other nations, the other neighboring nations around this empire. And I don't want to say the name because I feel like I'm gonna butcher it, but it's like Nikara, you know. And I also really like the symbolism behind the nations. I think Nikara is supposed to be China, and then like this other country is supposed to be like Japan, and this other country is supposed to be like America. And I thought that like everything, the commentary surrounding all of that and like religion, I thought that was really interesting, and it was really nice to see this story through the perspective of like non-Western, like the non-Western perspective. That was nice and really refreshing to see. And yeah, that's kind of all I want to say about the Dragon Republic. It's a lot more war. It's good. It's again dark. I would say all the trigger warnings that you get in the Poppy War are also here, but I loved it so much. Like just the relationships, just read it for the relationships. They're so good. Those are all my thoughts, and I'll link down the trigger warnings down below, and like the books below, and everything is going to be down below. So yeah, I guess I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.